and we're going to do back in the day. And this is one that people have been waiting for a couple of weeks because I kind of teased at it and never actually did it. Evolution 2006. For me, this was a completely unique experience and year because if you guys saw Hate Live a couple months back, I did my Evo 2005 story. This was the year when I literally had no money. I basically maxed out my credit cards to go out. I went to Evolution. I ended up getting 5th place in Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo at the national level, okay? National level fighting game championships. And the only people who placed above me were Japanese players. So, actually, I think it wasn't 5th, it was 4th place. Man, I'm misspeaking. I ended up getting 4th place that year. And like I said, the top 3 players were Japanese players. So, technically, that year, I was the highest ranking American in Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. This, of course, spurred a ton of controversy. A ton. Phil sucks. Phil's not actually good at Street Fighter. The only reason that Phil did anything at that tournament is because he played an inferior version of the game. He would never win at a different version of this game. He's a complete joke. He's a fluke, blah, blah, blah. Keep in mind, I have to say, I didn't pick the version of the game. Evo staff did. So until I won, it wasn't really a thing of contention. Only after I did well and got the highest ranking, American place in that tournament. Then, of course, now the tournament's bullshit. But if Alex Valle had gotten 4th place, then it would have been totally legit and on the level. But because DSP did well, it's bullshit, right? So I'm getting all this hate. And it's funny because it was a dichotomy. Half the people kind of like, wow, Phil's good. We watched his gameplay. He did really good that year. And the other half of people were like, oh, fuck Phil. He's a fluke. It's bullshit. He's not really good. It was just crap. So people trying to defame my name, as you see, back then they used to do it. They still do it today. But anyway, I was motivated by that year by saying, I did well. And I did so well that I really feel that if I committed myself to actually play a dedicated amount of time and try to be like a really high tournament level player, I could be one of, if not the best, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo player in the United States. I really felt that. I said if I put enough time into this, I could definitely do it, and I previously hadn't, and I decided that since I did so well at Evolution, now was my opportunity to try to jump on. I'm sure people were going to want to play against me, you know what I mean? John Rambo, this was one of the instances where I met John Rambo because I did so well at Evolution that year. That was one of the ways I met John Rambo. He wanted to play with me because he wanted to get better, and that's how we learned Super Turbo together. So, that year was a weird year because no one knew what was going to happen at Evolution the next year because everyone was like, they're probably not going to play that version of Super Turbo again because, it was a bad version and, how could Phil have gotten so high? We have to find a different version. Incidentally, like by coincidence, right, all of a sudden that year, it's announced Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo Anniversary Edition, which was, for short, it was called STAE, was coming out. Now this game was a unique game because what it did, it took all 5 versions of the Street Fighter 2 game. So we're talking regular Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, Hyper Fighting Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2, and Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. All 5 versions of the game. It put 5 versions of each character into the game, selectable on the screen when you picked your character, okay? And you could pit them all against each other. You could have Super Turbo Ryu against World Warrior Guile. Or you could have Champion Edition M. Bison against Hyper Fighting version Zangief. And each character, for the most part, wasn't 100% accurate, but for the most part, they retained the properties of the characters in those games. So, for example, in Hyper Fighting, Zangief had incredible grappling range. I kid you not. Zangief, in that game, he has a standing light kick. It's a little shin kick. He could grab you if you were at the tip of his toe. So he had grab range that was bigger than the range of his kicks. It was that much of a range. He was that great in that game. There were a few characters that were incredibly cheap in certain games. In the original World Warrior games, you could just do a couple hits and it would dizzy the character, and you could re-dizzy and re-dizzy. In Champion Edition, there were a couple characters. Champion Edition Sagat did like this much damage off your life bar. I'm talking like a 1/5 of your life bar if he hit you with a reversal tiger uppercut. And Champion Edition Bison, M. Bison or Dictator, however you want to call him, by far was the most incredibly cheap game of the entire line of Street Fighter 2. This character, I kid you not, if he landed one jump in, could hit you with a combo that dizzied you, and then he could finish you. So it was basically a touch of death combo. He had a 50-50 mix-up with his Psycho Crusher by crossing you up. So what that means is, let's say he throws you so you're on the ground. As you're getting up, he could just do a Psycho Crusher move, and it had a chance to hit you on either side, and it was random. It wasn't even like based off the player. The game would randomly move the hitbox so you could get hit at different places. And he was one of the cheapest characters ever in Street Fighter, and he was in this game. So, incidentally, I played all 5 versions of the game, so I knew the best strategies and everything in this game. Okay? I just spilled water all over my balls. I really did. Oh yeah, and by the way, one last thing about Bison. He had an infinite hit stun loop with scissor kicks, where he could do scissor kick, light kick, light kick, scissor kick, light kick, light kick, and some characters could never get out of it. There was no way to get out of it. They would be trapped infinitely in the corner. So, the game was really fucking cheesy and cheap, but people were so desperate to move away from the PlayStation 1 version of Super Turbo because I had done so good at Evo 2005 that they wanted to move towards something different. Now, 2006 was a unique year for 2 reasons, okay? Number one, it was unique because there were the very first American qualifiers for almost every possible game you could think of for Super Battle Opera. Now, in future years, I practiced a lot, and you guys followed me along my journey, and John Rambo as well, as we tried to qualify for Super Battle Opera, and eventually John Rambo didn't. He went to Japan, and that's a whole different story. But this was the first major year where Super Battle Opera was taking American qualifiers for a variety of games. And Arcade Edition was actually one of them, okay? And at the time, I was torn. I said, should I stay home and stay at home and play this game in practice for Evo, or should I really try to go to Japan? Because there's no way in hell I can afford both. It's going to be one or the other, right? And at that time, I kind of made the decision that I didn't think it was the right time to go to Japan, and that I was not going to actually enter the tournament to try to qualify to go to Japan, and I didn't. And so, incidentally, I didn't qualify, and I never went to Japan that year. But it was another unique year, because the second thing that happened is that Evo got sponsorship. Now, this is before Street Fighter 4 ever came out. This is back when Evo was still playing the same old games. They were playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Capcom vs. SNK 2, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, and some version of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. That year it was Super Turbo Anniversary Edition, in addition to some other ones, like they would have Tekken and Guilty Gear and stuff like that. So they really didn't have a lot of potential for sponsorship. It wasn't like, oh, Mad Catz is selling a joystick to play Street Fighter 4, you know what I mean? None of that existed. It was much more grassroots. So I don't know what the story is. I don't know how the hell Evo managed to do this. It's the most silly thing I've ever heard of in my life. They got sponsorship from Toyota Yaris. The Toyota Yaris was a brand new model of car. That was the first year that it premiered. It is a car that looks nothing like a gamer would drive. It's some kind of, has a big ass on it, and it looks more like a family vehicle than anything else. Like if you need a lot of trunk space for shopping or for putting shit in the trunk because you have a big family, that's who you would cater and sell that vehicle to, not to a younger gaming crowd, especially back then. Keep in mind, there wasn't a lot of money in Street Fighter, so a lot of the people in the fighting game community were poor. They would basically, scrounge up their money. They would beg people for money and donations to try to travel and even play Street Fighter. Why the hell you're catering a car to this audience and you think that it would sell this car? I have no fucking clue. But somehow, the planets fucking aligned, and someone at Toyota was high off their ass and thought this was going to work. So for 2 years, Toyota teamed up with Evolution, and 2006 was the very first year, and Evolution announced that they were going to have regional qualifier tournaments. And they would be held throughout the country. There would be one on the West Coast in California. There would be one on the East Coast, incidentally, in Connecticut. There would be one in the South in Texas, and one in the Midwest. And they would be called Evo North, South, Midwest, all those things. And they would be considered qualifying spots for the Evo National. So what you would have to do is go to that tournament and do well. And if you did well at that tournament, you would get a seed. So when you went to Evo Nationals, you automatically got past certain people, or it kept you away from certain people. You'd be guaranteed not to play someone who's like a killer player first round. You may get a bye and skip a couple rounds. So that's how it was working. So I decided that I was going to practice the hell out of Super Turbo Super Turbo Anniversary Edition, excuse me, because I wanted to really win Evo East and go on to the Nationals. Like, this was my goal. This was what I really wanted to do. And previously, the year before, it had been this Japanese player named Takedo, who had beaten me when we had done our Vega Mirror match in the Super Turbo Finals on stage at Evolution 2005. And I was determined that if I ever played him, I was going to beat him again. It was like my goal. I have to be so good in this game that when I play this guy, I beat him, right? And that was kind of like my dedicate. I have to avenge my loss last year. So, that year, went to tons of tournaments. In the New York area, in the New Jersey area, anything that we held in Connecticut, anything in Massachusetts, New York. Did I say New York? I don't know if I said New York. All those areas I went to, and I played tournaments. Like Rhode Island. We went to Rhode Island a few times, too. And I played the hell. And by the time that we were done, I had a killer group of characters, including Champion Edition Bison. There was one version of Guile. There was one version of Ryu. There was like 3 or 4 characters who I could all play at a very high tournament level with. And I was literally winning every tournament that I entered. Like, I was winning every regional tournament that I went to. I was winning. And people were like, wow, so Phil isn't a fluke. Phil got 4th place at Evolution. He's dedicated his time. He's going around, he's playing, and he's winning all these tournaments. So obviously he wasn't a fluke. I don't know why anyone would talk shit about him, but it didn't matter. It was like a different world. The East Coast loved me. The East Coast said Phil's great. He's a great player. We've played him in all these tournaments. He's really high level, and we really like Phil. You know, he's kind of our guy. We're backing him for Evo. The West Coast hated my guts because the West Coast is all about their OGs and supporting them, and all the OGs had said, oh, Phil's a fluke. Phil's bullshit. He's not any good at this game. He never should have won. It's garbage, right? Excuse me. So, Evo East comes around, and this is it. This is time to put it all on the line, talk turkey, and do what you're gonna do. And I actually remember I showed up, and I knew I was the best player there because I was watching everyone else playing, including James Chen was there. He was playing, and Seth Killian, and Justin Wong, and Julian Robinson from Philadelphia, and all these killer players from all over the country had showed up to Evo East. Some people even came to Evo East thinking it was going to be easier to qualify for Evo by entering East because they thought that was the weaker group of players. Oh, Evo East, that's going to be the weaker people, right? So I even remember the day before it was time for like the big tournament, and I was talking with the players outside, and Julian Robinson, who's a good guy, he's a real guy, but he's very he's very proud. Let's say that he's a representative of Philly. Much love to Philly. I love all the players from Philly. I haven't seen you guys in years. Shit, man. I don't know if anyone actually watches my content on here from back in the day, but he's a great player, and Julian was always good at the older games. And I remember talking to him in the hallway, and he was like, man, I don't know, I've been practicing this and that and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, and I'm worried about this guy and this guy. And he turned to someone who's next to him. Who are you worried about? He was like, yeah, I saw that Seth's here. I saw that James Chen's here. Justin's been practicing a lot. I'm worried about him. That could be a tough fight. And he turned to me and he said, Phil, who are you worried about? I said, I'm not worried. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, I'm winning. I'm winning this tournament. I just know I am. There's no one here that's better than me. I've been watching all you guys play, and I know that I have more knowledge about this game than you. And he was like, oh, really? You're gonna win? Oh man, you shit-talking asshole! How dare you? Blah blah blah. He got all excited about it because I said that. And so then I remember in the tournament, in the finals, because I did blow through the pools. I blew through the fucking pools, undefeated, no problem, right? Went to the top 8, and I remember I think my first match was against Julian Robinson. And he's like, okay, let's see what you can do, right? So he picked Champion Edition Bison. I said, you're sure you want to do that? He says, yes. I said, okay, as long as you sure you want to do that, because then I am also going to select Champion Edition Bison if this is the match you want. Yeah, I picked him. I perfected him. He could not move. I put him in that lockdown I told you about. There's a hit stun lockdown. He couldn't get out. And after the match, he was just like he was speechless. He didn't know what the fuck happened. He just didn't know. He was flabbergasted. Okay? So I ended up having a few other great matches. One against Justin Wong. Justin tried a few things. He tried, I think, hyper fighting Ryu at one point. Nothing worked. I dominated everyone in that tournament. I picked Champion Edition Bison, Super Turbo Balrog, and one or two other characters, and completely dominated everyone and just went straight through. Boom. And at that point, now it was like, now wait a minute. We had all talked so much shit about Phil, but now he just won Evo East. Like, no effort. You watch the videos, you're like, whoa. So, what does this mean? Does this mean that Phil is now really a top contender? How's he going to do at Evo and all that, right? So, I go to Evo after practicing even more, and doing whatever during the course of the year. And I remember getting to Evo, and it was a unique year because a lot of people respected me now. And there was still a small group of people that didn't like me, but there were some big name players. Jason Cole really respected me. He's like, damn man, you really came out of nowhere, and now you're actually dominating your home scene, and this is awesome that you've got to the level that you're at. And he really respected me, and to this day, I think he really does. He's one of the few West Coasters who's seen me play and knows me as a person and knows that I'm not a douchebag dickhead who's like so cocky or nothing. And he likes that, and he respects me for that. So I remember going out there and being friends with Cole and friends with a few other people or whatever. And when I went out there, I had my own hotel room. But it was very fucking expensive. That particular year, they had it, I believe it was at what the hell was the name of the hotel? It was called the Green Mountain Inn or something like that. It was a brand new hotel. And it was expensive as fuck. It was a resort. It wasn't on the strip of Vegas. It was actually away from the strip of Vegas. And the prices were insane. The prices were just out of fucking control for this place. And the thing was, I unfortunately, for whatever reason, I don't remember why, didn't reserve my hotel room in time, and for 2 days out of my stay, didn't even get the discounted rate for being part of Evolution, the event. So for 2 of the days, I paid like $500 for the fucking room. It was insane. It was all my money. Like, I emptied my money out to go to this tournament. It was just all my money. Incidentally, that year, there were all these people, because it was such an expensive hotel, who didn't have hotel rooms. They just showed up and expected people were going to let them stay in each other's rooms. So I remember one night, Team Hate, which are the people from Massachusetts, Boston area, Rhode Island, we had been playing together. These were people like Nestor, Paul Wall, Smooth Cat, Tony B. We were there. We were all hanging out together in each other's rooms and stuff. And, it was cool. We were playing. We were practicing. We were having a lot of fun doing that. I remember in particular, Smooth Cat decided to use my bathroom and just completely destroyed it. Like, it smelled so fucking disgusting after that. We all had to leave the room because it was so fucking nasty. But I don't know what the hell that kid ate, but it was probably roadkill, because I don't know what the fuck smells like that comes out of a human ass. But we all were playing, and we were all friendly or whatever. And so then I remember the tournament. And the tournament, quite honestly, out of everything in this event, was the most disappointing thing for me. And here's why. I literally played a few matches, got out of my pool real quick, right? Boom. All right. So now I was in like the semi bracket. I'm not the finals yet, but the semi-final bracket. And I sat there and I waited. 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 And I fucking waited. I waited. My matches must have been some of the final matches of the day. And so it's late at night and I'm fucking tired at this point. It's hot. It's very hot in Vegas. And again, we're not on the strip, so it's not like I could have walked down and checked stuff out. I was by the poolside for some of the day, and I was just like, I just want to fucking play, man. I just want to play. First match, finally. Oh, on stage, Phil versus Alex Valle. I'm like, oh, great. So I go and I play him, and it's an okay match. It's a pretty good match. For whatever reason, I chose to use DJ, which I don't understand why I did, because like I said, in Anniversary Edition, I actually played with Balrog, and I also played with CE Bison. I didn't usually pick DJ, and he had picked Ryu, and Ryu actually is one of the best matches against Champion Edition Bison, which is why I didn't pick him. I guess maybe I thought if I used basic Super Turbo skills, I could get around it, but DJ actually isn't as good in that version as he is in Super Turbo for minor reasons. But anyway, it was a decent match. I lost. And I was like, motherfucker, all this practice, I waited all day. Basically, it mind fucked me waiting all day to play my match. I finally play Alex Valle and I lose. And it was so disappointing. I'm like, motherfucker, now I'm going to be in losers. Now I'm going to have to fight my way out of losers. And I did. I fought a few more people. I beat a few more people in losers. Boom, boom, boom. And finally, at the end of the day, it's almost the end of the day. All right? My final match is against, guess who? Tokido. Now, this is the guy who beat me in 2005 on stage, mirror match with Vega. And I'm like, so I know the reason he beat me last year is because he knew a little bit more about the character than I did. I'm going to pick the character that I think I know the most about, and I should be able to beat him. I picked Champion Edition Bison. He saw that. He immediately picked Champion Edition Bison too. And I was like, oh, no. And the reason I say that is because when you have a Champion Edition Bison mirror match and the opponents are equally matched, it's a 50-50 shot. It's basically whoever grounds the opponent first wins the whole round. Because as I told you, there's this mix-up with the Psycho Crusher. When you're on the ground and you're getting up, the Psycho Crusher comes by, it's a 50-50 shot. And there's rounds where you will just never be able to get up. You'll get up, boom, get hit down, get up, boom. It just keeps happening. And it's completely random. It really is. You need to get the first hit. And I remember the first game, I won the first round, he won the second round, he won the third round. Fuck. Second game, I won the first round, he won the second round, I won the third round. Yes, it's 2-2, it's all tied up. He won the first round, I won the second round, it's down to the final fucking round. And it's like, so people, the crowds, the entire building was watching us play. Everyone just stopped and walked over and started watching because they're like, this is fucking crazy. This is like the two best CE Bisons in the world going at it right now. And we're fucking, it's just the dumbest game because literally, I knock you down, I win. And he won. He knocked me down and I fucking lost. And I was like, I wanted to rip my fucking shirt off like Hulk Hogan and be like, fuck this shit. What the fuck? Bullshit, cocksucking, duty fuck piece of shit. And it's just so frustrating when you put so much time into something to lose to that. When I lost to Valle, I was like, okay, he outplayed me with Ryu. Ryu is his staple character. That's acceptable. To lose to a gimmick like that because you know it's a gimmick is the most frustrating fucking thing. And it could have gone either way. You could have flipped a coin. I could have won the round. He could have won the round. But that day it went his way. And I was like, son of a fucking bitch, man. Seriously. And I remember that night, I walked away mad. I was so fucking pissed. And everyone, you know, who was supporting me was like, sorry to hear what happened, you know. Worst way to go out is to lose in a shitty gimmick mirror match like that where really it wasn't about skill, it was about luck, and you just had the bad luck that final round. And I was like, whatever. And I don't even remember the finals. I really don't. I don't remember it. Because when I lose like that, I don't want to be with it anymore. I just want to forget about it and be like, fuck this. So I was like, I'm in Vegas. I went out. I had some drinks that night. I was having some fun and doing stuff at the bar or whatever, hanging out with a few people. But now the part that I want to tell you about, the final end of the story, is some of the crazy shit that happened after the finals of Evo 2006, okay? So keep in mind, I was out of it. I was totally out of it, out of the tournament. And I do remember at one point I went down. I didn't watch all of the finals, but I watched parts of the finals. And I remember there was some heckling going on and some other shit going on during the turn. I don't even remember anymore. I just remember there was some guy on commentary that was so bad that people heckled the fuck out of him until he shut up, so we didn't have to hear his shit anymore. I remember that. But what I do remember is after the tournament, after everything ended, basically, well, like I told you guys, people were there. I'm talking top-level players. I'm talking Alex Valle. I'm talking Ricky Ortiz. I'm talking a bunch, like a dozen top players didn't have hotel rooms at the hotel and were looking to just bum time in people's rooms until they could leave the next day to catch their flights home. Because they couldn't afford, they didn't want to pay the $500 a night or whatever it was for the hotel. I was one of the few people who did. So, that night, they all knew where my room was because we had been playing games and stuff together or whatever. And that night, I remember Nestor came by, and he was hanging out with me. We had a few drinks, we were hanging out, whatever, we're having fun. And we went down to the bar. I remember we were at the bar, and it was me, Nestor, for some of the time, and then he wasn't there some of the other time. this female player named Jasmine from New York was really, really good at Capcom vs. SNK2 at the time, and I was really friendly with her. Jason Cole, later on Alex Valle and a few others joined us at the bar. We were all just shooting the shit, drinking. I remember at one point it was crazy. Jason Cole and I, in the middle of a bar, had an arm wrestling fight. Now, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to have an arm wrestling competition in the middle of a bar. So we kind of had, like, people form a crowd around us so people would know what was going on. We were, like, doing it. And as we're trying to do it, all of a sudden, like, the security came by. We're like, oh, we're not doing anything, sir. No, there's nothing going on here. We're just having a friendly drink. And then they'd walk away. Like, all right, come on. Let's do it again. And that was pretty fun. And I actually remember, I don't know if it was Daigo, but it might have been. One of the high-ranking Japanese players got so disgustingly drunk at the bar that he couldn't walk. And he was so inebriated, he was vomiting everywhere. And they actually had to call hotel security. They rolled him with a wheelchair to wheel him to his fucking room because he was so fucking drunk, okay? In addition to that, that night, of all nights, was Combo Fiend. That's right, Peter Rosas, who now is like the ambassador of Street Fighter. He took over for Seth Killian when Seth Killian left Capcom. Peter Rosas, Combo Fiend, it was his 21st birthday. And so that night, people took him to the bar. They got him so fucking wasted. He was so drunk, right? Now, he didn't have a room. And I'm like, you got this guy this fucking drunk, and he doesn't have a room. Like, what were you thinking? And of course, me being Mr. Responsible, I had a few drinks in me, but I was responsible. I said, all right, let's let him crash in my room for now until he wakes up and he feels better in a few hours because he's going to feel like shit because you gave him so much alcohol, but he's got to pass out somewhere, right? So we brought him into my room. We put him down. First of all, they put him down on the bed. Now, I'm in the bathroom using the bathroom. They put him down on the bed, back first like this, like a mummy, right? The worst possible thing you could do for someone who's stone cold drunk, because if you're drunk, and unfortunately, and a lot of people don't know this, if someone is very inebriated to the point where they pass out, never put them on their back like this, because if they happen to vomit in their sleep, they will die. They will choke on it and die. And there are many people, musicians, famous people who've died because they become inebriated and or on drugs, whatever, the combination, and they can't wake up and they die in their sleep. They drown. So whatever you do, do not do that, all right? If you have a friend who becomes so inebriated that they're passing out, you put them on a bed or table or wherever, and you place them on their side like this, with their head at the edge of the bed, like this, laying down, and you put something next to them so if they vomit, it goes into it. Because that way, if they vomit in their sleep, okay, you're fine. Went right into a fucking wastebasket. You're good. They wake up covered in their own vomit. That's their fault. But at least they didn't fucking die in their sleep. So I'm so glad I was there. Because again, these were all kids. They were young, newbies. They didn't know that. You're not supposed to put a drunk guy on his fucking back. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. He's gonna die in my hotel room on his 21st birthday because his friends don't know this. So anyway, I taught them all that, and we did that for Pete. And we left them there. We went back to the bar. We had some more drinks or whatever. And then finally, like 2, 3 in the morning, the bars were finally closing. And they went back. His friends picked him up. He was finally waking up half conscious. They brought Pete back to their room or whatever. And I remember it was the very end of that. So we're talking like 4 in the morning. Okay? And all of a sudden, I get a knock on my door. What the fuck is this? 4 in the morning. I'm like, I'm about to go to sleep. And I look out the peephole, and there's like a ton of people in the hallway. I'm like, what is this? I open the door. It's, I shit you not, Alex Valle, Ricky Ortiz. I can't remember if Flo was with them. It was like 10 players, some of which I recognized, some of them I didn't. But they were like, Phil, you got to help us out, man. You got to help us out. Hotel security's onto us. They know we don't have a room. They know we've been going from room to room. They're going to kick us out. We don't want to be out there in the heat on the street, man. We need somewhere to stay until it gets light so then we can go back to the airport, man. Can you let us in? And I was just like, just my luck that I because I'm a responsible person, have my own hotel room, and I've got these pro players, a lot of which have been talking shit about me that I'm a horrible player, now want to bum the room off me, right? Keep in mind, Valle, one of the people who wasn't giving me respect, I let him in because I'm that kind of person. What can I say? So I let them into my room, and I remember it was Nestor, Valle, and Ricky Ortiz, and they were all talking about shit, and Valle was fucking gone, man. He was so drunk that he was just rambling on about bullshit, right? So I remember Nestor was talking to me at one point about breaking up with his girlfriend or whatever. And then Valle starts talking, and he goes, yeah, I know, man. I know how rough it is. Let me tell you something, man. When I came here when I was younger, I tried to get my green card, and it was a pain, a real bummer. And we both looked at him, Nestor and I both looked at him and said, what the fuck is getting a green card have to do with him breaking up with his girlfriend? Because that's how drunk he was. He I don't know. And we're just looking at him like, what the fuck? And he got all pissed off like, oh, man, you're gonna make fun of me, blah, blah, blah. It was pretty funny. But basically, they stayed in my room for a few hours. And then finally, I kicked them out. I said, you guys cannot stay here all night. You're here for a couple hours. Now get the fuck out and go find someone else to bum a room off of so I can finally get to sleep. Because I got a flight tomorrow afternoon. And that was a wild time. Because basically what that showed was that there's this subculture of people, right, who were so into Street Fighter, but they were just literally bums. They were bumming off of people all the time. Bumming rooms, bumming rides, bumming plane tickets, bumming this. They didn't pay for anything themselves. If they won a tournament, they finally made some money. But they didn't. None of those people had hotel rooms. 12 people. So why the fuck did you go? If you cannot afford a hotel room to the tournament, why are you there? You know what I mean? And that's kind of the culture of what Street Fighter was back then. It was like a bunch of bums bumming off each other, bumming off people who could afford stuff in order to go from tournament to tournament. And I hate to say it, but it was like some of the top players felt that they deserved it. Well, I'm one of the best players, so why wouldn't you just let me in your hotel room? I'm one of the best players. Why wouldn't you just pay my plane ticket so I can fly to the West Coast and play in this tournament? It's like, are you for fucking real? You're not a celebrity. You're a nobody. You just play Street Fighter. But this is literally what it was like in the fighting game community. It was out of control. You may not know this, but those Japanese players that used to go to Evolution until sponsorship, pick all those players up, they used to get their shit paid for free by nobodies. So, I'm going to pay for Tokido to fly to the West Coast from Japan because I want him at Evo. Why would you do that? Just because he's a good player, you pay his way? I never understood that. You know what I mean? I never asked for a dime for someone to pay my way. I'm going to earn my money and I'm going to go there on my own dime. But there were people who were like this all the time in the Street Fighter community. I can't say now how it's... I know now there's sponsorships and people make big money doing it and all that shit. I don't know how it is now, but that's how it was back in the day. And that was like an eye-opening thing for me. Here's people who afforded to drink all night, right? They played in the tournament, but they didn't have a hotel room. They weren't responsible enough to make sure that they were even going to be safe. Yeah, it was out of control. It was absolutely out of control. And that was by far the nuttiest tournament I've ever attended.